Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Mabit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And we'll share the screen here. Share. Nope. There's a share. There we go, April 6th in Asia. Happy Yoga Swami Mahasamadhi, very appropriate song there, Ingo Gurunathan. Recently I came across two photos we have taken of Yerevan Temple, which shows more of the landscaping than most photos, so I thought I'd show them. Very nice. And the next one here. This one looks like a painting, but it's not. It's a photograph. So, very nice. Definitely looking good. All the grounds, all those areas where you see plants used to just be dirt. So the plants have come along really well in the last decade or so. And our first topic, Hinduism, a multifaceted religion. It is based on the publisher's desk, Hinduism, Religion or Way of Life. Additional material has been added to further develop the topic. First section addresses the question, isn't Hinduism simply a way of life? This is a question I'm frequently asked at satsang gatherings. It invariably makes for spirited discussion, as there is avid interest and a lively diversity of opinion. How would you reply to the question, isn't Hinduism just a way of life? Years ago, Swami Chinmayanandaji, founder of Chinmaya Mission, gave a dramatic lecture on this subject. Here are key excerpts. Hinduism is not a religion, it is a way of life. You can today hear it in every drawing room, wherever youngsters are sitting and discussing Hindu culture and India. You can hear them blabbering this quotation. Hinduism is totally different. It is not a religion. Then what is it? It is a way of life. This is a false statement. No thinking man will accept it or give it any credit at all. What an abominable stupidity is wrapped up in such an attractive sentence. Isn't that a great statement? What an abominable stupidity is wrapped up in such an attractive sentence. Hinduism is not a religion, it is a way of life. Oh, I see, in Christianity it is a religion, so it is not a way of life? What is religion without a way of life? How can there be a way of life without religion? Think. It is a self-contradiction to say it is not a religion, it is a way of life. Hinduism is not a religion, it is only a way of life, and Christianity is a religion and therefore no way of life. What is religion without a way of life? Does not a religion guide us in our world, in our life? So it is an empty, high-sounding statement. Swamiji goes on to explain that the notion originated with German Indologists such as Max Muller, who in the late 1800s translated the word mata as religion. To quote Swamiji, The Germans who first tried to translate our Sanskrit literature unfortunately made a great mistake. They used mata for religion. Buddha Mata, the religion of Buddha. Christava Mata, the religion of Christ. Muhammadiya Mata, Islam. Then they came to Hindu Mata, and the poor Germans got confused because in the Hindu religion there are very many mata. It is a composite mata. Mata comes from the Sanskrit word mati, meaning buddhi, intellect. That which is crystallized in the intellect is called a mata. Mata only means an opinion. Hindu religion contains Shankara Mata, Ramanuja Mata, Madhva Mata, various acharyas who have given various viewpoints of life in the attitudes or the thoughts of the Upanishads. They are all called Mata, Mata, Mata. So the Germans came to the conclusion that Hinduism is not a religion. Then what is it? It is the way of life. End of Swamiji's quote. Reminds me of Gurudeva, very outspoken. Hindus inquiring about the merits of this infamous statement are generally not immersed in the practice of Hinduism. They may have in mind that the sum total of Hinduism is to follow Dharma, to live virtuously, and fulfill one's duty, and that there is no need to do more. Hinduism is a way of life, but it is a spiritual way of life, encompassing good conduct, worship, selfless service, scriptural study, and meditation. And what is the definition of a spiritual way of life? Religion. Remember, the German Indologists were no friends of Hinduism. Their redefinition of our faith as a non-religion was a powerful criticism, one that unfortunately Hindus themselves adopted. To deny that our faith is a religion is intellectual suicide and a global public relations disaster. I remember there was a high-ranking judge who was attending a Hinduism Today event we held in Mauritius on an inner search. He was putting forth the idea that Hinduism was not a religion, it was a way of life. And then he realized that if that was done in Mauritius, Hinduism would lose all its government funding. So that's the downside of not being a religion. No funding. In Mauritius, backwards from the U.S., in Mauritius, the government gives money to all religions. So Hinduism needs to be a religion. In the U.S., the government gives money to no religions. So different approaches completely. Hinduism stands proudly with the great faiths of the world, and it does this not because it is a way of life. Our photo is from the Global Forum of Spiritual and Parliamentary Leaders held in Oxford, England in 1988, which had significant Hindu participation. So there's Gurudeva there in the lower right corner. Vegetarianism is a way of life. Nonviolence is a way of life. But neither is a religion, and neither will be invited to a parliament of the world's religions, as Swami Vivekananda was back in 1893. He was invited and he spoke to the world from that Chicago podium precisely because he was a Hindu. Interesting looking group. Beards were more popular back then. Happily, this is changing in small but important ways. The Hindu youth we encounter today are proud of their religion, eager to learn more about it. In universities the world over, Hindu students want to stand proudly side by side with students of other religions. Hindu American Foundation's Take Back Yoga campaign, which works to reestablish the practice as having its roots in the world's oldest faith, is a bold indictment of the way of life argument. So this concludes the first part of our presentation on Hinduism, religion, or way of life. And we hope everyone present is convinced it is definitely a religion. In each satsang I hold, one basic question invariably arises: how can I make Hinduism practical in daily life? The answer to this question comprises the second part of our presentation and also ties in with our title that Hinduism is a multifaceted religion. As Hinduism is a multifaceted religion, I stress that to know and practice Hinduism in the fullest sense, one should engage in all the areas it encompasses. So this presentation lists 5 areas that Hinduism encompasses. What do you think the 5 areas are? Dharma, worship, selfless service, philosophical study, and meditation. Together, these 5 make for a complete physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual regimen to follow throughout life. Devotional practice without philosophy can easily turn into superstition. Don't want that. Philosophy without devotion and selfless service can devolve to mere intellectual argumentation and speculation. Don't want that either. Taking Hinduism as only a way of life, one misses out on the inner benefits of devotion and philosophy. And without meditation, one has no way to experience the oneness of Atman and Brahman, Jiva and Shiva. It leads to illumination and liberation. Let's look at these 5 facets more closely. Dharma, as we know, encapsulated in the code of conduct called yamas. Yama means reining in or controlling the base instinctive nature, such as the tendency to become angry and harm others, to lie or manipulate events in our favor, to steal to acquire something we desire and otherwise could not have. Such expressions of one's instinctive nature need to be harnessed, as actions based on them create negative karmas and keep one constantly in an upset state of mind. So that's a good way to always be upset if you're not following the yamas. Dharma also includes a wide variety of cultural observances. So all the pictures there, they have the leashes. The leashes are restraining the animals. The animals are the instinctive nature. And we are restraining our instinctive nature with the leashes of the yamas. Seva, selfless service. Next, many individuals provide support through giving a monetary donation to a religious or other nonprofit organization. While it is easy to open your wallet or purse and give, say, $50, selfless service offers a more serious commitment, requiring the sacrifice of one's time. Selfless service need not be limited to the temple. It can be done at work, at school, wherever we are in the world. Devotional practices such as attending puja at a temple, going on pilgrimage, conducting puja in one's home shrine, and repeating a mantra on japa beads deepen humility and raise the subtle energies to the higher chakras of cognition, divine love. Scriptural study builds a firm foundation of philosophical clarity, an accurate understanding of God's souls and world that enhances and informs every aspect of one's life. Such study includes the Vedas, Agamas, the texts of one's denomination, and the teachings of the saints and sages of one's guru lineage. Choice of study material should be in consonance with one's sectarian philosophy. For example, if one's lineage is Advaitic, that study should reinforce the idea that we are already one with God, that nothing has to happen for this to be true. Meditation and other yogic sadhanas, the 5th aspect of Hinduism, are the doorway to personal realization. Meditation can propel the individual beyond philosophical concepts about divinity to actual experience of those truths. This can be compared to reading about the taste of a ripe, juicy mango versus actually taking your first bite. Which would you prefer? There are two primary approaches. The first, Raja Yoga, consists of regulating breathing, sense withdrawal, concentration, and meditation. And the second, which we don't teach, is Jnana Yoga. It's a path of scriptural study, reflection, and constant profound meditation. These 5 religious facets are found in all of Hinduism's diverse lineages, with each sect and sampradaya treasuring and preserving its own cultural, devotional, and philosophical uniqueness. We have met many Hindus in the United States, particularly Hindu teenagers, who think that the temple is the totality of Hinduism. No one has told them differently. It's like a default concept. The temple is the totality of Hinduism. And if they feel pujas are boring because they are in Sanskrit or too long, then they conclude that Hinduism is boring. So this is a problem in the US. If they knew that Hinduism had 5 distinct facets, they would hopefully find one or more of them other than worship that they had a strong interest in. For our next sections, we will look in more depth at these 5 facets. So this is the point, is that parents and teachers of Hinduism, ideally before kids get too far into their teens, make sure they understand these 5 facets of Hinduism, because they may not take to the temple, which is worship, but they may enjoy seva, for example, or they may enjoy meditation. So we want to make sure they think of those practices as Hindu practices, not outside of Hinduism. And we get Dharma, first one. Non-injury, ahimsa, is the first and foremost ethical principle of every Hindu. We have chosen it as our example for the facet of Dharma. Maybe you remember this quote. The Mahabharata extols its importance by saying, ahimsa is the highest Dharma. It is the highest purification. It is also the highest truth from which all Dharma proceeds. So this is an old pub desk. So the world has changed significantly in the aftermath of September 11, 2001. Really old. Everyone has become more aware and increasingly appalled by the rampant incidents of brutality occurring worldwide every month. It's still going on, just not in the US at this time. Mahatma Gandhi's strong belief in the Hindu principle of ahimsa and his nonviolent methods for opposing British rule are well known today throughout the world. The nonviolent approach has consciously been used by others as well. Certainly one of the most well-known exponents of nonviolence was Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King, who after decades of careful thought on the problem of racial discrimination in the United States, selected the Hindu principle of ahimsa as exemplified by Mahatma Gandhi's tactic of nonviolent resistance as the most effective method for overcoming the unjust laws that existed in America at that time. In 1959, Dr. King even spent 5 weeks in India personally discussing with Gandhi's followers the philosophy, techniques of nonviolence to deepen his understanding of them before putting them into actual use. In a world awash in wars and conflict of every kind, Hinduism's gentleness and non-injury by thought, word, and deed is more than a relevance. It is a necessity for the future of humanity. So this is the first mention of the threefold nature of non-injury: thought, word, and deed, mind, speech, and body. So generally when people talk about non-injury, it's non-injury by the body, or harming someone with our body. But in Hinduism, it also includes our words and even our thoughts. So negative thoughts about someone, strong negative thoughts about someone actually hurt them, make it harder for them to be successful. And the principle of ahimsa at the personal level, this probably says exactly what I just said. Start with an excellent definition of ahimsa from Sandilya Upanishad. Ahimsa is not causing pain to any living being at any time through the actions of one's mind, speech, or body. Oh, we just covered that. As we mentioned, a common justification for using violence is in retaliation for injuries to you, members of your family, your religion, or nation. There are many in the world today who believe that in those instances you have a duty to personally retaliate. So this is talking about personal retaliation. However, Hinduism does not support the idea of such retaliation. In fact, Hinduism's oldest scripture, the Rig Veda, speaks against it. Return not blow for blow, nor curse for curse. Neither meanness for base tricks. Shower blessings instead. So what is the alternative to personal retaliation? Specifically, rather than retaliation, Hinduism favors using society's established channels for finding a remedy. Let's take as an example a common movie plot. Someone shoots and kills your brother during a robbery, and the rest of the film is devoted to you chasing down the robber and shooting him in revenge. What then happens in the next life? The sequel. There is definitely a negative karma to be faced for killing in revenge. Perhaps another robbery will take place and you will be killed. Better to let the police take care of the robber. The policeman has taken an oath to uphold the law and therefore creates no negative karma if in capturing the criminal he has no choice but to injure him. So he's taken an oath. Therefore it doesn't accrue a karma as long as he does it according to the oath. There are two philosophical principles which form the basis for ahimsa. The first is the law of karma. Specifically, the knowledge that if we harm another, we will be harmed in the future is a powerful motivation to refrain from violence. Second philosophical basis for ahimsa begins with the perception of the divine shining forth within all things, all beings, all peoples. When we see the divine in someone, we actually do not want to hurt them. Hindus even see the divine within people that are acting in evil ways, criminals, terrorists, and therefore do not want to hurt them either. What we can guard against is taking on the Western perspective that some people are intrinsically evil, the enemy, and therefore it is all right to treat them in a different way than those who are intrinsically good. Of course, the law of karma does not distinguish between hurting an enemy or hurting a friend. And we get seva, service, karma yoga. The perspective of karma yoga is to be sure to regularly include activities in our life that are done purely as selfless service to help and serve others. The key in performing karma yoga lies in helping others in truly selfless ways with no expectation of payment, presents, praise, or prestige. When done in this way, karma yoga is an effective means of lessening selfishness, a quality that is strengthened in our youth by modern society's strong emphasis on materialism. So even though this was written quite a while ago, that's still the case. Perhaps it's even stronger. Normally, such karma yoga is done at a temple or ashram. When performed at the temple in the right spirit, it has the benefit of bringing you closer to the deity, but it is wise and prudent to extend such service as widely in your life as you can, such as helping others in your workplace beyond what is expected, willingly and without complaint, as well as helping others at school, for those who are students. This counteracts the instinctive tendency to only serve ourselves, to promote our own goals and career, and to help others only begrudgingly. Which ultimately makes us a lonely, unhappy, limited person. Fact is, the more selfish we are, the less happy we are, and the less selfish we are, the happier we are. Selfless service is an important practice that everyone, young and old alike, can do. Paramadru Yogaswami referred to service as Sivathondu, meaning service to God. We did that one last time. Encouraged all his devotees to perform it regularly. We can also take time to teach children the basics of our religion and culture. Visiting the elderly is another form of service and is greatly appreciated by those who are visited. Pramukh Swami Maharaj of BAPS counseled his followers in the aftermath of the 2001 Gujarat earthquake. When people are facing difficulties and sorrows, our Indian tradition is to offer them solace. We feel that by serving the human beings, we serve the Lord himself. So that's an important statement. Hindu humanism is another name for karma yoga. Knowing that Hinduism has its own form of humanism helps ward off the influence of secular humanism that Hindus face when they attend university. Though secular humanism doesn't believe in God. How does Hindu humanism differ from secular humanism? The core belief of secular humanism is, I believe in the preservation and enhancement of the human species as my ultimate concern, and in the global human family which must preserve the earth for future generations. Hinduism has no trouble endorsing this conviction. The difference lies in the question, what aspects of the human condition need to be enhanced, and how? Hinduism accepts the secular humanist values and adds what it considers the essential purpose of human life, spiritual advancement, moving closer and closer to God, which for monists is one's innermost divine self, over a span of many lifetimes. How much service should we perform? Gurudeva suggested 4 hours a week as a good guideline. All such acts of Sivathondu earn punyam, good karma, merit that we carry into our next birth. In fact, merit is true wealth, in that it is the only possession we are able to take from one life to the next. He stated, everyone, no matter what their skills, can and should give 10% of their time each week in service to their religious institution. We calculate it as 4 hours a week, which is 10% of a 40-hour work week, which amounts to 208 hours a year. It is also acceptable to tithe, give 10% of one's time in intense projects all at once rather than each week. For example, many of the devotees who helped build the Swaminarayan temple in London took time off from their professions for a full month and labored 12 hours a day to build that magnificent edifice. It has been our experience that those who live beyond their means, juggle their income and manipulate, don't have time to give 10% of their time for religious service. Selfless service is also an important practice for parents to involve their children in regularly. Parents are naturally focused on making sure their children are as successful in life as possible, which is good. Unfortunately, some Hindu parents feel that it would be a waste of time for their children to help out occasionally in volunteer work. This, of course, is not based on the concept that work can become worship, and that volunteer work is an important part of that shift in perspective. Therefore, to impress the importance of selfless service in the minds of children, children need to spend time regularly helping others. What better way than the entire family spending time together on weekends in karma yoga at a local temple? Of course, such family karma yoga efforts should always be done in a fun-loving spirit, not have a sense of being a punishment. And we covered 2 out of the 5 topics, so we'll cover the remaining 3 next time. Second topic, character building, from our workbook, up to persuasiveness, 43rd character quality. How would you define persuasiveness? The workbook gives this definition. Persuasiveness is the ability to effectively communicate the merits of one's ideas. I cultivate it by presenting my ideas diplomatically to the right people, in the right way, and at the right time. The opposite is unpersuasiveness. That's a rewording of one of the statements I use. For an idea to be right, it has to be right in 3 ways. The text itself, the statement you're going to make or present in writing, needs to be correct, but it needs to be presented at the right time and in the right way. Otherwise, it's not right. So you have to be right 3 ways to be persuasive. Gurudeva, I say that if you have really made the religious teachings a part of your life, you will naturally be able to convince your family and friends of these wonderful truths. If you can't convince your family of the teachings, that shows that they are just intellectual thoughts that in practice don't mean anything to you. Thank you, Gurudeva. Those who say, well, nobody understands me, I feel all alone on the path, are going through a period in which they have memorized everything but understand very little, therefore cannot explain or convince their fellow man of these great truths due to the fact that their subconscious basement is still full. Reflection. Take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve in persuasiveness. And the third topic, need to include Yoga Swami on Samadhi Day in Asia. Words of our Master. Just as this farmer has prepared his soil well, so everyone must try to keep his heart pure. What does that mean to you? My thought? Rich soil is needed for a plant to grow to its full maturity. Likewise, a pure heart is needed for the soul to mature. They're both a prerequisite for growth. One is the plant's growth and the other is the soul's growth. Nothing is lost, nothing is gained. What does that mean to you? Certainly looks like things are lost and gained. My thought, though clearly things are lost and gained, there is a deeper part of the soul that never changes, which is what you want to identify with. So change is external, but there's part of you that's internal that's always been the same and will always be the same. Part of the soul nature. And to someone who is cleaning the garden, when you clean the garden, you also clean your mind. What does that mean to you? So it brought to my mind a memory. I remember Gurudeva was weeding a small patch of the flower garden, and he said he was straightening the karmas. Wasn't doing anything with plants. He was straightening the karmas. Clearly not his, but his devotees. So what both of these statements are saying is clearly ordering our external surroundings impacts our internal environment as well. Oh, thank you very much.